How often have you come to Vegas to work or speak, or is it a place you come? Really? What year was the first year that you came here?
Maybe 97 for American Airlines.
And in respect to American Airlines, what kind of work were you doing with them?
I built the website and a CRM.
Wow.
Interactive marketing.
Wow. Okay, so my question being that you've been a very extremely competent person in this industry for as long as you have, was it a mentor or a happenstance, like an occurrence that drew you to or both, that drew you to this industry?
There never really was an industry. It's changed over time. But the core of what's worked for me, any kind of success I've ever had is because someone else believed in me. And the CEO of American Airlines, Al Casey, was the one who believed in me. And he said, "Son, you have a smile so good you could sell toothpaste." And my teeth are yellow now. I need to get them like cleaned up a little bit. But I built websites when I was an undergrad at Southern Methodist University. And I was on full scholarship there. And he was one of the folks that took me under his wing. Even though he was a very important person, he ran the Resolution Trust Company. He was the Postmaster General. So he had over 1 million employees, more employees than anyone else on the planet. Can you imagine what it's like to have 1 million employees, right? And he basically adopted me and showed me how business works. What happens when you buy and sell a company? He ran the LA Times, right? What happens when you run a publishing company? What do you need to do when you run an airline and there's a strike and fuel prices go up and passengers complain and a competitor comes into your territory and Boeing is trying to play hardball with you, right? How do you deal with that kind of stuff? I didn't learn that in school.
Wow.
But what I did know how to do was build websites. Now this is back in the day of dynamic HTML. So we weren't even on HTML5 yet as a standard. There's none of this like PHP or it's not even Linux or Apache or
It was the wild, wild west.
It was basically HTML, and you built websites doing that. Even the idea of putting in a credit card into a web page 20 years ago was a very scary sort of thing.
Wow. So you're in college at this time when you met this man, Al?
Yeah.
Or was it right after? In college, did you have a vision for going into a technological industry type, or
no?
was there...
I'm just a 20-year-old. I don't really know anything, but I did know I was good at math.
Okay.
And I would compete in math contests.
Really?
Yeah.
So
I flew around. And I was in math counts.
Was it middle school or high school that you got the bug for math?
Probably even further than that. Yeah.
So
plus, being Asian gave me an advantage. I didn't speak English until I was 6.
Really? So
math was where I was able to communicate with other people.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So, okay, so you were born here? No. Yes.
Yeah, I'm an ABC. I'm an American-born, Chinese-born in Dayton, Ohio.
Dayton, Ohio.
That's right.
So we're Dayton, Ohio, and speaking Chinese up until about 6, and then you're learning English.
Yep, I learned from kids, and they mocked me because they could play games on me because I didn't know what certain words meant. So I went to the principal's office many times because I said words that other kids would tell me, if you really like somebody, you're going to say this. Or go up to this girl and say this, and I didn't know.
So you ended up there. Did you invest in your time into academics, or did you push it away in the beginning?
Well, I had no friends, and I didn't speak English, so I just studied.
Wow.
And my dad taught me calculus when I was in middle school.
Okay, so you're 11, 12 years old and learning calculus. Mm-hmm. At that point in time, so what's your day look like? You're going to school.
I read all day. Okay. I get dropped off in the morning, 7 o'clock on campus, and I read until class starts. And then when class is over, maybe 2:30, the bell rings. I walk down the hill and I go to the library and I read until I get picked up at maybe 6:30 or 7 o'clock.
How much has that added value to your life now?
Huge. Huge, absolutely. I've read over 4,000 books.
Oh, this is...
And they're not comic books.
No.
Like real books. And I viewed it as, this is going to sound like I'm a loser, but I viewed...
Culture matters.
I viewed books as...
Not the culture.
Like my friend, because I could have conversations. I loved autobiographies because I could read about like J.W. Marriott and how he started the Marriott Corporation. And I felt like I was having a conversation with him. Or Ray Kroc, Made in America, or I'm sorry, Sam Walton, Made in America.
Yeah.
Ray Kroc pointed out, which is McDonald's, right? And I felt that I was having conversations with them, just like you and I are having conversations. And I've always been mentored by these people. And I thought, well, I'm learning way more this way because I'm not just reading a book. I'm pausing along the way, and as they're saying something, I'm thinking, okay, what question do I have about that? And then I'm thinking, well, how would they respond to that?
How would they respond to that?
Yeah.
Is that something that you did innately,
Yeah.
intuitively?
Yeah.
Okay, so that wasn't taught.
But I'm an
It was
introvert.
congestion. Yeah.
You wouldn't know it, but I'm an introvert, so I don't want to go out there and like bother anybody.
Okay.
Like there'd be famous people or rich people or whatever that I'd see, and when I was a President's Scholar at SMU, full scholarship,
Okay.
I'd have to go to these fancy dinners where the donors would come, and then we're the future of the university, so we'd have to talk about highfalutin topics, and I would go into the bathroom and I would hide. I'd lock myself in the bathroom. And you know, you go to a party where it's fancy and
Yeah.
there's waiters going around with fancy food, everyone's dressed up, maybe there's a table in the middle with all this food. I'd go there, put some things on my plate, look for anyone that I'd recognize. If I didn't recognize anybody, I'd just go into the bathroom, lock it, and hide. And then maybe 15 or 20 minutes later, someone knocks saying, hey, is anyone in there? Yeah, I'm still in here, right? And then I'd look outside and see if I recognized anybody. And if I didn't recognize anybody, I'd just go back into the bathroom and hide. And then I'd leave.
How old are you?
Oh, 20.
You were doing that up to
21,
20.
yeah.
At 21, was it Al that inspired you or enthralled you to get out of that? Because he saw that genius.
That's right.
Because that is.
Well, I didn't think of it like that.
What did you think of it as?
I read more than everybody else. So I would do well on the tests because I studied more. And the whole, the Asian that beats everyone on the tests was played to my advantage. So I always had this inferiority complex because I felt that I wasn't good enough because I wasn't popular. I didn't have any friends. I didn't have any of the nice clothes. Like Air Jordans were the thing back then. Like if you had a pair of Air Jordans, you're really cool. And I had zips with like the Velcro snaps, and I was really lame.
And then
you remember that, the kids that have the Velcro?
So and then because
Yeah.
you did well and potentially due to your culture or the
Yeah.
cultural bias of that culture, it was something like you got a award for reading so many books.
Well, there's no award for that kind of thing. It's all internal. But I thought, fine, I don't need to make any friends. I'll just beat all you guys when it comes to tests. And even though my English wasn't very good, I decided through all the reading and studying, I didn't know how to communicate. I could actually write okay. I studied that dictionary. I studied literally the Oxford Unabridged Dictionary for 2 hours a day for a few years. Just
From what age to
literally
what
reading.
age?
Oh, maybe when I was 13, 14.
13, 14,
13, all the way up to like 16, 17.
By then, were you able to communicate? Because you have a very good vernacular,
Now I do.
no one would have,
I represented California in the National Spelling Bee in 1988 in Washington, D.C.
So from there, you went to there. So, okay, let's go back to college.
Yeah.
We're in college. At this point in time, you meet Al.
Mm-hmm.
At that point in time, you're seeing him like a normal mentor relationship, like once a week, once a month. What did that
Yeah, a
look
couple
like?
times a week.
Okay. And did you start working for him right out of college?
No, he made some phone calls.
Okay, so the first job you ever had,
Yeah.
what was that?
It's working at American Airlines.
Oh,
First
that was
real
at
job I
American
ever
Airlines.
had.
Okay,
Yeah.
got it. And how long were you there?
4 years.
4 years. What was the biggest lesson that you learned for business and your personal life as well at American Airlines?
Oh man, all the lessons come from failures. We launched the website, AA.com, in June of 1998. So that was 20 years ago. And I was in charge of making sure all the different pieces were going to come together. And when the website launched, the website didn't work because we were supposed to cobble together different pieces of software from Oracle and Broadvision and Kana and integrating with the back end, so the fares, the frequent flyer system, and Sabre, which is real-time fares and ticketing and availability. So that was a difficult thing to try to integrate, and we had millions of dollars of marketing lined up, full page, front page, Wall Street Journal, USA Today, and those millions of dollars were wasted because the website was down on the day of the launch for that committed media, and I thought, I'm getting fired. But you learn through things like that mentors believe in you. I remember Al said something to the effect of, well, son, we just made a multi-million-dollar investment in you. Right?
Wow.
And mentors, so bosses are there to punish you and catch you in the act of doing something wrong, and mentors are there to encourage you and catch you in the act of doing something good. And you go to a mentor when you're struggling, and you need help. Like a coach. A coach helps you on the form. A coach has got your best interest in mind. A coach is there to help you get better so that you're not afraid. And that's, I believe, what's been missing in the world of business and the world of education is mentors. And they're separate from parents or colleagues or bosses or people at Toastmasters. It's people who have, like we talked about before this, people who have accomplished the thing that you want to accomplish. And thus they have credibility to be able to give you advice.
So that thought that you have now, which we're going to get into, drives BlitzMetrics, it looks like, in your giant vision to help a million people have jobs, especially young individuals. That metaphorically, or that metaphor could have been started with Al. And you invested a lot of your energy, and it just didn't work out. And instead of saying, get out of here, he said, this is an investment. It reminds me of, there was an Andrew Carnegie story about that, I think, that something of that nature that I read in a book somewhere. So, okay, at that point, moving forward, what happened next? Now I'm like on the edge of my seat. Did you keep working with a
We kept tripling the revenue every 6 months. And we turned it from, I was so excited when we first launched the website and people were coming in and checking how many miles they had. I know it's not a big deal today, but if you can imagine 20 years ago, going to a website, coming up on a Prodigy AOL CompuServe, none of this like high-speed stuff, right? There's this modem stuff. You type in your frequent flyer number and your password and it tells you how many miles you have. Like that was a really big deal. And then to be able to say, okay, I want to fly from Las Vegas to Philadelphia tonight, 8 o'clock on American Airlines. How much is that ticket going to cost and how many seats are there? Like now that's no big deal. Like Google Flights even shows that. But back then, that was a huge accomplishment.
So you guys accomplished that?
Yeah. So when we sold our first tickets, it was huge. Like even be able, like I sent out a report every day saying, hey, we sold 5 tickets today. We made $1,000. I was like, yeah, we made $1,000 on the internet, right?
Wow.
Fast forward 2 years later, we're doing $3 million a day.
Wow.
Right? $3 million a day.
$1 billion a year?
Yeah.
So, okay.
Can you imagine that, right?
Well, I cannot. So personally, how do you humble yourself to be a pioneer on the frontier of the biggest shift on the planet ever?
Because you're always around, some people call this the capitalist precipice.
Okay.
So I always felt that I was incompetent and I was going to be fired because when I started to run the internal analytics at Yahoo as an executive there, which was almost 20 years ago, so that was next after American, 2 cubes away from me was Rasmus Lerdorf, who invented PHP. So they're the other people that invented the core technology of today's internet, and I'm working with these people, and I think I'm a complete fraud compared to them, right? Because they're the names of the people, they're the who of who in Silicon Valley.
Wow.
So I never felt that I was somebody that was important, because the further you rise or the deeper you get into an area of expertise, the deeper your network becomes. So you never really feel like you're at the top, right? You're always in the middle. Wherever you are, you're always in the middle.
Wow. And okay, so you took it as that, and then now, is that a power in a sense that, or I guess a reality in a sense that you take and then help other people through that? Because I see that on social media. We met on Facebook, and I read your post, and it seems like you are always extending your hand to people that you see have potential. So tell me about that. Do you mentor a lot of people? It looks like you're doing a ton of that.
I do a lot of it. Our company loses millions of dollars doing that.
Okay,
right?
Can you explain why then do that? Because maybe people wouldn't understand.
Sometimes you have to do what doesn't make any sense because it's the right thing and because it matters to you. And for me, having mentors in my life, like Al Casey or Dick Hayen, who was the chairman of Allstate Insurance, or other people that I can name that have done just amazing things that I could never pay back. Right? Yeah. Everything I have ever had, I owe to these people that have opened doors for me. Right? Now, it wasn't entitlement where they just wrote checks, but they opened doors for me. They told me what to do. They gave me advice along the way. I had to work hard.
Yeah.
Right? And that means so much to me that I want to know how can I allow other people to have that same kind of benefit that I had at scale. And the only thing I know to do is the idea of learn, do, and teach.
Learn, do, and teach. Okay, break that down. Why in that order?
Well, you first have to learn how to do something. You have to study the books. You have to follow the recipe, right? You have to see how it's being done. Then you do it yourself. There's one thing with like passing a test. Oh, I got an A on the test. That doesn't mean that you really know how to do it. You then have to, you could read books about juggling, but until you can actually juggle, it doesn't matter. But then you don't really know, you don't really know how to juggle until I give you 3 balls and maybe I teach you how to juggle. And I teach you how to pass. And I teach you how to use clubs and pass with clubs, right? Those are different levels of knowing how to do something. Can you pass a quiz? Can you do it yourself? Do you know it so well forwards and backwards you can teach other people how to do it?
Wow.
Right? So everything in the world of mentorship can be encapsulated in the framework of learn, do, teach.
Learn, do, teach.
In the same way, we have content, checklist, software. So as you're experimenting, and any kind of good scientist keeps notes as they're experimenting.
Yep.
So that's content.
Got it.
That's the experiment. That's what you see when I'm posting on Facebook. I'm experimenting, right?
Yep.
I'm saying I tried this and it didn't work. Then I tried it this way and it didn't work. Then I tried it this way and here's something that seems to be working, right? And we're all sharing. That's content. Checklist is when you and I have done something enough times, we've kind of figured out what the recipe is. And now we want other people to follow the recipe. And if we've documented the recipe clearly enough, other people can use those ingredients and make chocolate chip cookies.
So
right?
BlitzMetrics
Yeah.
models learn, do, teach with that system.
With content checklist software.
Content
so learn,
checklist
do,
software.
teach is the same thing as content checklist software. Software is how you scale.
Okay.
Software is how you build relationships at scale. Software is how you teach other people based on your actual demonstrated behavior.
So let's start with the content. Let's break that down.
Yeah.
How is BlitzMetrics getting the content?
We're interviewing people like you. If you,
Yeah.
so Jay, you
Okay.
and
Yeah.
other folks in your company
Culture manager.
are demonstrating that you can make an impact
Thank
in live
you.
events. And there is a process that you have. There's a process that Brad has here at Lightspeed.
Yeah.
Clearly, you can't roll out 500,000 courses, whatever. You can't roll out that stuff without a process, right?
Yes,
You were
yes,
here the
yes.
last week. There's a process behind that. It doesn't matter how motivated you are or how well-meaning you are. Without that process, you can't do the thing that you do world class. So I'm super honored to be able to spend time with people who've achieved certain areas of success and get them to contribute their checklist. I want their checklist. I want to understand 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the recipe of how they achieved whatever it is they achieved. How do you build software? How do you build a landing
How do
page?
you get cultural
How do you-
alignment? Find it, transcribe it, do
Yeah.
it daily. Checklist.
How do you say sorry? Here's the steps on how you do that, right? There's
Okay.
steps in anything that you want to do, right? There's steps in, like, we're about to go have some lunch,
Yeah.
right? I love the recipe analogies. It's like a Geiger counter. The more food analogies you hear, like the hungrier I am.
One, analogies help us create
Yeah.
the understanding in our mind. So
We want to create the ultimate cookbook of all the knowledge on how to get stuff done and just put it into something like this that everyone should be able to access. And that's different.
that's where the software comes in.
Yeah, that's different than just going to YouTube and watching videos randomly.
Yes,
Right?
it
Like,
is.
oh, how do I play the guitar? I can see tons of videos on YouTube. But if I want to know exactly how to do that, I want to talk to someone who's credible, who's done it many times, and who cares enough that they're available to also teach me and help me along the way. I could watch videos on how to hit a 5-iron, right, down the fairway without slicing it. But I need someone to also look at my swing and give me feedback because I have blind spots.
So how do people do that through BlitzMetrics?
If you follow, learn, do, teach,
Yeah.
you're learning it. So let's just use the golf analogy.
Sure,
You
sure.
want to be able to hit a 5-iron down the fairway. You're learning how to do it, watching videos, instructions, courses. You're doing it. You're actually practicing on the range. Then, as part of, if you believe in mentorship and apprenticeship, as you have learned how to do it and you've demonstrated you can do it multiple times, you, Jay, have an obligation to help other people that are just starting
Of course.
and look at their swing and make sure that they're able to make it through the courses and give them encouragement along the way.
So that's the ethos or the idea behind BlitzMetrics, and BlitzMetrics is the system of which you guys are making it happen.
It requires human interaction. It's one thing to have a training system where you can watch videos and it has all the cool
Right.
technology, but behind that is coaching of a human that cares for you. For example, do you have a personal trainer maybe?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, so anything the personal trainer tells you about, oh, here's how you do the curl to get like the most whatever benefit, right? You could probably find that on YouTube, right?
Of course.
But why do you have a personal trainer?
For that personal interaction.
For the accountability.
And the accountability.
Yeah.
Yes, big point.
Because someone cares. Because just watching a YouTube video, you're not going to realize things that you're doing wrong.
Yeah.
If someone else is watching, they can speed
Yes.
up your progress.
And that personal interaction creates that trust or alignment where you care if you let them down, because we're a social creature.
Yeah. You know, something that,
So that makes sense.
that has been deeply painful but meaningful to me is that when I dropped out of high school, I thought I was going to become a professional athlete. And I thought all these things that an 18-year-old would think, they were wrong. And I thought if I just studied hard enough that I could become successful. If I just got good enough grades, I could. And my dream was to work at Nike, right? If I ran fast enough. And those dreams were shattered. And I didn't have anyone to lean on. I didn't have any friends. And I felt so lonely. And that's when I realized that everyone on this planet, no matter how successful they may appear, needs someone on their side. Everyone needs someone on in their corner so that they feel that they're appreciated, that someone else cares about how they're doing. And I thought, well, mentorship is not just someone like Al Casey who teaches me about the world of business, but the knowledge plus the fact that somebody cares, I think is what's so missing and so valuable. I think there's a love drought in the planet right now.
I agree.
I think that people are they're faking their way through social media because everyone's looking at the highlights, but literally to show that you care, people are just dying for that.
Do you believe then, in a sense of, you thought every mentor should have a mentee and every mentee then be a mentor to a mentee?
Yeah.
And there's that's in
the
a
idea
sense
of
the
learn, do, teach.
spiral,
Yeah.
and that's just a different way of saying it.
Yeah, some people believe in multi-level marketing, which is kind of like that, but it doesn't have to be based on money and it doesn't require a downline.
Maybe it's just human.
Yeah, you do it because you believe in them, not because you're making 10% of
Biologically, we have the kids.
Yeah.
What are we supposed to just leave them there? Teach them. And we reflect that.
But imagine it goes beyond just your kids. Imagine it goes into something that's so meaningful for you that
Yeah.
you're a servant leader and you want to help other kids in your neighborhood. You want to help other people.
It's beyond blood and bones, and it's a human conversation. Do you believe that?
Yeah, you see people that struggle with cancer, for example, and then they want to help other people in their community because they align around a particular area.
That idea that's touched them.
Yeah.
Okay, so talk about the vision of BlitzMetrics and this 1 million people that your guys are impacting to have jobs. Where did that come from?
It just came organically from the experience that I had.
Okay.
I'm the founder of the company. And because of the pain that I had where I was alone and I didn't have help until a couple mentors picked me up, gave me encouragement, gave me skill, pointed me in the right direction, opened up their networks. I feel that can be systematized into a checklist that other people can benefit from. So imagine we hook in a mentorship program and a work experience program
Okay.
with local universities.
So yes, okay, that's powerful. Now that brings me to a conversation that we had before we got on the on this camera here. The universities and the knowledge, all of that wealth of information that's there, that because you've read thousands of books, you actually took the time to read them. They're in those universities, and there seems as though there's a disconnect between the humans that go there and what is actually there, and then they leave there. And then there's the infrastructure of the corporate space.
That's right.
And the world is evolving so quickly that no one can really keep up on the corporate space, on the hiring space,
That's right.
on the competency space when it comes to the future employees, and on that educational space.
Yeah.
Where do you see BlitzMetrics fitting in to solve that problem of everyone wants, it's almost like a shell game of lack of information being, that's what I see.
So you know the answer. The answer is we're trying to bridge that. So you have two extremes, and neither of which is correct by itself. You have the people saying, oh, you don't need college, it's all a waste of time, you should just be an entrepreneur right away because that's a better MBA than paying for the MBA. And over here, these kids are entitled and they don't know what they're doing, they can't communicate, they're not organized, they're not well balanced, they don't have the knowledge, and that's why these entrepreneurs fail all day long, but they still pretend that they're successful. They pose in front of their Lamborghinis. This is my garage.
Neither works.
So neither is correct. It's a Goldilocks problem. The answer is when you bring them together. So what does that mean? It means there's nothing wrong with the current school system.
Oh my gosh.
Because there's so much you still need to learn to be able to show up on time, to be able to communicate, to have a basic fundamental understanding of the world, to be able to explore things that you might want to learn more about. So this fundamental knowledge will never, the need for this will never go away. But In addition to that, you need to layer in, not just some like bogus internship, you need to layer in the knowledge that you need from the private sector. So all the stuff we know about digital marketing, how to do Facebook ads, how to mess around in WordPress, using Infusionsoft, that stuff is not going to be taught in college. It shouldn't be taught in college because it changes so fast. College is for fundamentals that will always be there, right?
Yeah.
Unless you become like a medical doctor or lawyer. There's certain things in college that you need for other things, but in general, for most people who go to college. So you have to layer in the real world practical experience with the fundamentals that you learn in education. But who's doing that? The private sector, folks like us as employers are saying like, hey, I'm trying to hire these kids, but they're all millennials and they don't know the difference between there and there. And I'd love to hire these folks, but they're not competent, right? And the universities will say, well, our role ends at getting you the degree. I mean, sure, we'll help you with your resume at the Career Center, that kind of thing. We'll have a job fair, the lawyers come in, and there's this dancing, dating kind of thing that goes on. But neither is, they're each at ends of the spectrum, and what we have to do is take the knowledge from the private sector and have an apprenticeship model that bridges while these students are still in school. Otherwise, these students, they graduate from school. Mark Lack told me, do you know what % of students, when they graduate from their 4-year college, move back in with their parents?
Is it above 60%?
It's above 90%.
Wow.
That is a horrifying stat. You know why that's so horrifying?
Why?
Think about it. You're the parent. You've just paid for this whole education, tons of debt, maybe you got some scholarships, and now, instead of, because what's supposed to happen, and we interview a lot.
Well, it slows down the real estate market, which is one of the foundational pieces and cruxes of the economy, and that ties into the stock market. Like, it's all connected.
What's supposed to happen is you graduate and then you take the certificate, diploma, and you trade it into the window for a job, right?
Yes.
That's what's supposed to happen?
Yes, because the diploma is the insurance policy to the corporate.
But that's not
policy.
what happens.
That's not what's
and
happening
all of us
right
that are older.
And then the parents have more of a burden.
Yeah.
It's
and
like
now
getting
the parents
gifts
like,
and
oh my
mortgages.
goodness, I paid for all this education. Aren't they supposed to have a job already?
And then the children that do, the young adults that go, don't actually read and think like you've done. You've done a great job of that. They intoxicate and fornicate for 4 years, come back that culture, and then they take that out on Friday and Saturday.
That's right.
And then we have a country that's
they think they're
completely
done.
divided.
They think
It just doesn't work.
I've got my degree. I'm done with learning. No, son, that's when you're starting. And so the model in the United States in the last 200 years is completely anathema to how education has been since the beginning of time. The apprenticeship model has always been.
We talk about it.
The apprenticeship model, you want to be a blacksmith, you learn under some other blacksmith, and you do that for 4 or 5 years until you can eventually get to the point where you open your own shop or whatever it is. That model where you learn from an expert practitioner, you could be a baker, you could be a locksmith, you could be a shoemaker, you could be like whatever it is, a banker. That's the model that has always been in the world. That's the way it currently
aligns
is
with
in
our
Europe.
biology and our neuropsychology.
Yeah, less than 10 people, 10% of the people in Europe go to college.
Wow.
Does that mean that they're all dropouts and truck drivers and working McDonald's? No, because they don't need to go to that kind of college because the apprenticeship model starts as soon as they get out of high school or even during high school.
When did you recognize this pattern? So it was Arthur, one of my favorite quotes is Arthur Schopenhauer.
Mm-hmm.
The talented people hit targets people can't hit, but the genius sees targets people can't see.
That's right.
That's right. So we define at Culture Matters the genius is all of us have it, the recognition between pattern and the decision to enact imagination.
Yeah.
So you see that what's happening.
Mm-hmm.
When was that, and when did BlitzMetrics start?
BlitzMetrics started when I left Yahoo, so technically that would be 12 or 13 years ago, but I've always had it in my heart. I've always been a tutor and a mentor. I've done that ever since I could teach math, and I did that in high school. That was kind of a side income for me. But it really hit me when I went to London for the London School of Economics. And I learned how different things are outside of the United States. When you spend most of your time inside the United States, you can't really compare because you don't have anything else to contrast against. And I learned in London that the American system, and I'm not trying to hate on the American system, it's different. The American system is based on a binge and purge cycle of where you try to gorge right before the exam, take the exam, forget everything. Then you turn in some papers along the way. Then you study, the 2 or 3 days before the final exam, take the exam, forget everything, because you just try to cram for it. You weren't actually trying to learn anything because you're just trying to check the next box. And the next box is graduate high school, get a diploma, get your own place, get married. And nothing wrong with that, 2.5 kids and a white picket fence, right? But there was something that was missing from both an employment standpoint, like getting a real job versus just checking a box and getting whatever job, or the job your parents want you to get. I'm not saying be a rebel. Number two, doing something that is meaningful. And a lot of people think, oh, well, then I need to be an entrepreneur. No, not necessarily. And the middle road between those two, remember, either extreme is wrong, is apprenticeship. An apprenticeship is not internship. Internship is like, oh, go fetch some coffee for me at Starbucks, right? Apprenticeship is when you have a mentor who is senior that runs you through a program that is structured, where you're gaining some kind of certificate, some kind of knowledge that on this planet it's worth something. So I've mentored, for example, Logan Young.
Yeah.
He was a pizza delivery boy 3 years ago.
Wow.
Right? Never worked in a job. Papa John's, that doesn't count, okay? And what does that experience at BlitzMetrics, what is that worth? How about other people that have been through our program? What's that experience worth? They can take that and get a job anywhere they want. That's what any of us that are working professionals should seek to do. Because not only is that good for us because we get better employees, because we get people who believe in the apprenticeship model, not just I'm going to work here for 6 months and then peace out, right? I'm going to stay here at least 3 years, 4 years.
So working at
that level.
BlitzMetrics, that's this learn,
do, teach.
Is
You have
part
to
of your
pass it on
culture.
to other people. It's ingrained in what we do. If you don't believe in mentoring other people, you're going to fundamentally be unhappy and you're going to be impatient in our system because you just want Lamborghinis tomorrow.
Wow. So on a daily basis or a weekly basis, what are some of the things that you guys do at BlitzMetrics to keep this, ethos going?
So we talked about how there's learn, do, teach as a progression, and also content checklist software.
Yeah.
So all of us, when we're working on projects, we're doing things to drive revenue, leads, all the things that clients pay us money for, but at the same time, we're documenting what's working. We're following these checklists, and we're also teaching other people that are junior. So let's say I'm a level 4 in the system, in the 9-level system.
Oh. Okay.
I can mentor other people that are level 1 or level 2. And if I've done particular tasks in these checklists, then certainly these items I can have other people do. I could do it myself, but if it's something that another team member could do, I'll say, hey Jay, you're level 2, you've just learned how to set up this kind of plumbing here. Why don't you do that? And when you're done, run it by me and I'll take a look at it and make sure you did it right. Because in order for me to advance, I've got to be able to delegate off stuff. Otherwise, I'm going to end up, so maybe I came in and I'm learning how to install Facebook pixels.
Wow.
And try and custom audiences.
So there's
I don't want to
9
keep
levels.
doing that. Yeah, I don't want to keep doing the same thing over and over again. I want to be able to do new things that are higher level, that stack upon one another. In order to do that, the thing that I have been doing, that I've done repeatedly and demonstrated that I can do it many times, I've got to pass it off to someone else who could then do it so I can keep moving up.
Wow. So that's part of how the people that work within your organizations create that mentor-mentee relationship to spiral.
In order to move
the
up, you
company
have to mentor other people, but not because it's an MLM, not because you get a chunk of their earnings, but because we fundamentally understand and embrace the model of mentorship as our business, not like we give back 1% of our profit. It is
the
our
business. It's just the business is
what we
your
do.
vision to solution of a problem.
Yeah.
And this product that you've created, this learn, do, teach, that's reflected in the content, in the checklists, and the software is the material reflection of that idea, and that's what your product
software
is.
is the infrastructure that allows that. But
The infrastructure.
what matters is the heart of the people that are here.
Wow.
The checklists and the software, that's really just the infrastructure of the building, but it's the people that really count, that run the thing.
So, okay, what's the next 12 months look like?
Yeah.
And then the next 5 years for you in BlitzMetrics?
We're rolling out these courses. We're collecting more knowledge from other people that want to share how they're doing things and systematizing that into this logic engine. Any kind of knowledge that can be turned into a checklist, a repeatable recipe, we are trying to put into the system. Content that you have already made, content that I have already made,
Wow.
right? And in 5 years, I would love to see this expand from the handful of universities that we have to stay-at-home moms, to veterans that have just got out of the military. You know, the Marine and Army soldiers that they've spent 3 or 4 years, right? And they have an honorable discharge, and maybe they're 21 years old. That is a perfect young adult to come through this system.
Wow,
Using
so
the GI Bill.
not just universities, the everyday, anyone that's on the earth,
Yeah.
and even the military all around the world, so
Yeah.
there isn't really any, and
They get the
you wanna leave out
$27,000
50 people, or, I mean,
Well,
7.3 billion
you-
people?
You have to
Are we
start.
infecting everyone?
You have to start where you're going to have the highest likelihood of success. The most fertile ground is young adults that have an inclination towards digital marketing. They're self-organized because the
Okay.
system is only partially built, right?
Yeah.
Like going up a construction scaffold, it's a little dangerous. You have to kind of know what you're doing,
course.
right? But certainly in 5 or 10 years from now, anybody
Wow.
that wants to learn how to do anything should be able to come here and learn what's in there, mostly for free, perform that activity so that they can achieve their goal. If you want to play the piano, you want to learn a particular skill, you want to play golf, like whatever it is, right? You want to get married, you want to lose weight, whatever, right? And then as they do that, and they've demonstrated that they can successfully do the thing that they came to learn, they can then mentor other people. Because as they're going through our system and accomplishing that particular goal, they are getting help from other people. Because initially you come in as a mentee,
Yeah.
and then when you learn how to do it, you have an obligation to then mentor other people that want to do the same thing.
So-
in any area of expertise.
I love it. And so Culture Matters, excuse me, I'm actually getting, maybe I'm like choking because I'm excited. Our vision is to live in a world where every man, woman, and child takes responsibility to read, write, and speak every day. So our mission, what we do every single day, the Culturites, the Culturians, is read, write, speak, and inspire people to do that. Our purpose is to help people uncover their genius,
Yeah.
because we believe when people read, write, and speak, they develop the power to love themselves and others.
Yeah.
Because our goal is to make curiosity cool.
Yeah.
After actually sitting down and learning about you, I'm excited that I've been following you for a year on Facebook, and that actually freaking shows how important social media is and what you're doing and where you're starting on social media. This is bigger than the Gutenberg press. I mean, this is the big revolution for the world, and it's amazing what you're doing. My final question, it's supremely awesome what you're doing, actually, because it means something, and I agree with everything, that we do need to create this bridge, because people are lost. So my final question to you is, the day before you met Al in college, knowing everything that you know today, from everything you've learned, from everyone you've ever learned from, what advice would you give yourself the day before you met Al, your mentor?
It's more important developing relationships with people who believe in you than it is to achieve or be able to check the boxes. Because when I was younger, I was in such a hurry to check a lot of boxes, to make money, to get good grades. And I regret a lot of opportunities that have come my way because they were intangible. Because I just want to be able to get an A in that class, I want to be able to make a certain amount of money, I want to be able to do whatever, I want to check a box. And you know, the things that are most easily measured are actually the least important. And then the more valuable something is, the harder it is to measure.
This was awesome. I look forward to
Okay.
building our friendship together and seeing
Good
BlitzMetrics being like explode all over the world, and we will make sure that happens. So
Culture matters.
yeah,
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 bro.
this is awesome.